watching, and want to thank everyone for all my birthday wishes. I am really blessed to have had another year of life on this planet, and I want to thank Allah and God and all the ancestors for providing a pathway when sometimes you don't think there's a pathway that's being provided. You know, old elder that I really respected said that he had to walk by faith and not by sight. And in the vein of that, that's what we're going to do. Welcome, everyone. This is Believe Radio, 24-hour inspirational gospel channel at our TV. It's run by Etymology and Curtis. Curtis is the manager, and he has always helped me put my shows together, and I want to thank him personally all the time. I want to say good afternoon, everyone. And this is the birthday edition. And I mean by that, I turned 69. If you were watching some things on my Facebook, which I never tend to do, I take my run, which was I've been running since high school, and more even further than that, running since junior high school, and it's been my form of exercise and my form of meditation. And so, with that being said, I want to welcome everybody aboard. And you got to be careful about running. Falls are a major issue. Of course, I fell during the run and skinned up my knee, but what can I say? That's a part of it. Exercising promotes that strength in you that allows you to recover from injuries. And as we age, we have to understand that fragility in us comes from not, stretching, exercising, passive range of motion, those kind of things. We have to keep it moving. Our ancestors kept it moving. And want to, again, say I was born and raised in Oakland, California. And although I live in Berkeley, my home is in where I was born, where I was raised, where I went to school. It's Oakland, California. That's why I love it so much. And I love that city, and will always. And so this time last year, I asked the question about we're us celebrating July the 4th, 1776. I was born in 1955, and I'm always asked about, Julie, your birthday's on July the 4th. Aren't you excited about that? Well, early on in my life, outside of the fact that as I understood my mom going through so much trauma to have me, I always had a kind of let's just say a good feeling, but just something didn't jive with, the American birthday and my birthday. And so, of course, we initially talked about last year, July the 4th in 1776, the United States had declared its independence from British rule. And that's significant because, again, you were establishing in these societies freedom from your religion, freedom of commons, freedom to start a business, freedom to have a family. These are all freedoms that are inherent in the American experiment. And the caveats are, even though it was white males, that hopefully these freedoms would be transferred in some sort of homogeneous mix that would be like a gumbo, where everybody would get a taste of that freedom. Well, that's not the case. And for us, I always relate to the fact that 1619, approximately 20 enslaved Africans arrived in the English colony of Jamestown in Virginia. This often is recognized as one of the earliest instances of enslaved Africans being brought to what would become the United States. So here we are in a land born of freedom, bring it to it a group of humans that would not be free and would not be able to claim freedom in this country until almost 300 years later. And again, the impacts of that have reverberated throughout. And as I said before, to understand African American history, again, African American, not Black, African American history is to understand American history. And to understand slavery is to understand American history. It's almost akin to medicine. When you understand HIV, you understand medicine. When you understand tuberculosis, you understand medicine. When you understand syphilis, you understand medicine. Because it's systemic. It touches every part of the body. And so I want to also mention my sister, Francesca Smith. Francesca Smith, at that time, she's married now to Mr. Bridges. So it's Francesca Smith Bridges. And my sister was born July the 3rd. And so I want to celebrate her birthday. And again, want to give great shout out to my niece, Kaylee, who just graduated from AP school and working in Sacramento. She just passed her exam. So I'm excited for her and wish her well in her career. And I know she's going to have an exciting career as an NP. And I guess it's a birthday show. I want to thank everyone for their shout outs to me on Facebook and kind of follow me through my run on July the 4th. And again, these are things that wouldn't have been possible without my media. I tell people I've been running for 30 years. Yeah, when was the last time I haven't seen you run? So I put it on video and let you see. And I think that, in the celebration of the hamburgers and the hot dogs, by the way, one of the things that I have not been able to stop eating, all the things I've been able to stop eating, because again, this is a show on obesity also, we can talk about that, is hot dogs. I don't know what it is about hot dogs. And so what I did was I'll go to the market when I can get them made, but sometimes I'll get a package of those packaged ones and man, good, just good. I get it, food kind of envelops your vision of family and friends, and we so much connect food and eating with an emotional experience. That being said, 1776, the status of African Americans was and would always be until that period of time things changed with slavery. Slavery was a racial discrimination, a long struggle for rights of equality, and it would mark toward the mid-19th century the Civil War. And again, the Civil War was about slavery. It was about maintaining an institution of slavery. And now someone bring me literature to the fact that, slavery was something that slaves enjoyed and made them better people and they gave them skills. I guess that's all true, but it still was enslavement of another human being, which is what they had fled Britain from. That's why the America was created, to leave the tyranny of the king, the one person rule, which is what we're trying to return to. Did you see it? It's all ancestry. So there was a percentage of Americans that wanted a king. They were outvoted by a Congress and men of saying like it means to make this a constitution, to make this American experiment. It never really ends well when people are monarchs. Something we should watch in history. And so, again, this is my birthday, and this is something I always talk about because I think we need to understand that on which that birthday of America is built. And the status of African Americans throughout history has always been marked by slavery, racial discrimination, and a long struggle for civil rights and equality. and would not be changed until the 13th Amendment was passed. An amendment, because in the original constitutions, we were 3/5 of a human being. That's another discussion about Americans coalescing to decide that another group of Americans had no rights, were no better than cattle or animal or livestock. And even though July 4th, 1776 marks the liberation of America, it continued to enslave African Americans through systemic racism, segregation, and various forms of discrimination. I said more about this last year, and my thing is that my grandchildren, and I want them to be free of a world and a culture that's discriminatory toward them, their hair, how they speak, how they look, their body type. And I think it's crucial that we understand that. July 4th, 1776, African Americans in the United States were largely enslaved and had no legal, political, or citizenship status. Slavery was legally sanctioned, and enslaved Africans had no rights or legal recognition. I rewrote that Ask GBT chat to give me some more definitive discussions around what it meant to be an African American in 1776. And that's what it meant. Free African Americans, while not enslaved, still faced significant discrimination and lacked many of the rights and privileges enjoyed by their white citizens. So there was the slavery that existed. Oh, yeah, but we got folks that are free, but they were under the system of oppression, of nationalism, because America, the whole, benefited from the institution of slavery. North versus South, I don't give it that much weight. Lincoln says that he would, if he could save the Union and preserve slavery, he would. If he could save the Union and abolish slavery, he would. His issue was the maintaining of the great American experiment. So, and it got me to thinking about regarding the presidents, U.S. presidents, and the signers of the Constitution who were slave owners. I knew all you knew this because you got taught it in your American history classes. And if you got taught that, I'd like to know what class you were in, because I never got taught it. And it wasn't because of the Oakland public schools either, it was because they didn't teach it. And they refused to want to provide that kind of history because it puts why we function and where we function in context. So, U.S. presidents who were slave owners. Wow, George Washington owned slaves throughout his life, but freed them upon his death. So isn't that great? You know, you own a group of people for a majority of life, and then you decide on your deathbed they should be free. Thomas Jefferson owned over 600 slaves and did not free the majority of them. Thomas Jefferson is interesting. You should review him, and what got me thinking of, so it's been 20 years ago. Sally Hemings should be synonymous with Thomas Jefferson because he maintained her and raped her as a young woman on into adulthood. And some of the discussions are that he even passed her around to brothers. This is the president of the United States, right? Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? James Madison owned slaves and did not free them. So in GPT chat, when I researched this, I asked, who were the presidents that owned slaves? I said, who owned slaves, not the fact they owned them and freed them. I asked that they owned them. This is how the information can get kind of like changed. So whoever put the information in answered my question with a caveat. Oh, but they were freed though. This is how the information has to be reviewed and understood, because again, a human being is putting this information in. At some point in time, will this system be able to draw its own conclusions only from the information that's being provided at this point in time? James Madison owned slaves and did not free them. James Monroe owned slaves and supported the institution of slavery. Andrew Jackson owned a large number of slaves and was a staunch supporter of slavery. Martin Buren owned one slave who he freed in 1840. Now, this is one slave thing, okay? That's great. But all the people around you had slaves. You benefit from the commerce, from the farming, from all that. So he may not have owned slaves, but he was benefiting from being a white male president from all the things that the slaves provided. William Henry Harrison owned a few slaves, but later became an anti-slavery advocate. John Tyler owned slaves and supported the Confederacy. So this goes back to individuals that, although they held up the constitutional flag, were probably trying to destroy the American dream at its core, because it said that they could not dominate and do what they wanted to do. There were limits, there were restrictions. That's unless you have the Supreme Court in your back pocket and you elected them so they do what you ask them to do. I want to worry about that, but another discussion. John Tyler, I said, owned slaves and supports the Confederacy. James K. Polk owned slaves and actively worked to expand slavery in the new U.S. territories. Zachary Taylor owned slaves but opposed the expansion of slavery into new territories. Again, North versus South, no issue. Andrew Johnson owned a few slaves and opposed the 14th Amendment to free them, right? Okay. Ulysses S. Grant owned one slave who he freed in 1859. Why is that significant? Because if African American soldiers do not commit to the Union Army, they do not win the war. African American troops fighting for their freedom were strategic in victories under the leadership of Ulysses S. Grant. Without those soldiers, the Union does not win. If those African slaves turn toward the Confederacy and fight against them, they do not win. Now, why would you want to fight someone when someone's fighting for your freedom? Logical discussion, right? Signers of the Constitution who were slave owners. Again, July the 4th, this is my birthday. I want to have this conversation because we don't have it. The people that they want to provide statues to and holidays to and commandeer how great of American, remember I asked this question, what's American? These great Americans who own slaves. So, signers of the U.S. Constitution: John Blair, Virginia; William Blount, North Carolina; Pierce Butler, South Carolina; George Clymer, Pennsylvania, held servants rather than slaves. Okay. William Few, George. See, history can be just so convoluted. It's your view of that prism. So they weren't slaves, they were servants. Which, what does that mean? They mean they could leave and go home to their families and have kids, or what? I missed that. William Few, Georgia. These are all legislators, all the folks, again, signs of the Constitution, who held slaves. Now, could you not imagine there's going to be a discussion that wouldn't be very positive about the owners of slaves and those that didn't own slaves in terms of the future of America? How could you be purporting history and freedom if you own human beings? What kind of moral ground does that place you in? Ben Franklin owned slaves early in his life, but became an abolitionist. With Nicholas Gilliam, New Hampshire, did not own slaves. William Hamilton, New York, did not own slaves, opposed slavery. William Jackson, Secretary, no record of slave ownership. Don't mean he didn't have them. James Lafayette Jr., New York, no record of slave ownership. Doesn't mean he didn't have them. Virginia, James Madison, Gouverneur Morris, Pennsylvania, no record of slave ownership. Again, these are signers of the Constitution. You can go find their name, sign of the Constitution. It doesn't. The carrier is that we own slaves too, by the way. Not in the history books, because no one wants to acknowledge that. Why wouldn't you if you're proud of the history? George Reed, Delaware. John Richards, South Carolina. Richard Dobbs, Spratt, North Carolina. And George Washington, Virginia. And I kind of wanted to continue. And thanks for all the birthday wishes. Happy birthday. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. And I kind of want to continue this discussion about, young men, and for more than a better word, throwaway. We're throwing away young men in the society. And we're leaving them to their own devices. And when we leave them to their own devices, you get what you get. And what you're seeing is basically a collapse of relationships in the family. And structure for women. As my mom would tell us, I can do bad by myself. I get it. But doing bad doesn't mean you're not trying. There has to be some sort of balance there, some understanding, the challenges of society and the world on our most vulnerable. And right now, most vulnerable young men and young women. I'm never going to forget the women. I lost a grandchild to gun violence. Never forget that. So it got me in a discussion around loneliness and solitude. Maybe guys just want to be by themselves. I mean, it's just the male club, and we just don't know what we're doing, and where would that come to? So, definition of loneliness, a subjective feeling of feeling isolated or disconnected from others, even when not physically alone. Emotional state often associated with negative emotions such as sadness, anxiety, and a sense of emptiness. Involuntary, usually unwanted state that individuals seek to avoid. Social connection reflects a perceived deficiency in social relationships. So, wow, how does that happen? Look at your phone. Think about COVID. Think about the natural interaction. Gee, as I was growing up, you went to a party, you hung out, you interacted on that level. You didn't get swiped to the right or to the left. You weren't glammed up on social media and that post that you make. Then when you get the person in real, is it catfishing or where you pose to be this person that you are on media, but you're not that person. Why would you want to do that? It's because you're afraid. You're lonely. Versus solitude. I'm finding myself, I need to find inner peace or inner pizza. Okay. Instead of being alone without being lonely, it is a choice to be alone for reflection, relaxation, and personal growth. Emotional state can be associated with positive emotions such as peace, contentment, and creativity. Social connection doesn't necessarily reflect a lack of social connections, rather, it is a conscious decision to spend time alone. Which one are you? Which one are us? What do we want to foster in society? Are we lonely being in solitude or in solitude being lonely? And in preferences around America, it says the preference for loneliness or solitude can vary widely among individuals and influenced by personal, cultural, and situational factors. Specific data on the overall preference of Americans for one over the other is limited, and trends and studies indicate, though, urbanization and technology, increasing urbanization and technology use can lead to a higher rate of loneliness due to face-to-face interaction. And we understand that this is about issue around women and young women and being body shamed and, the whole issue, being sexual blast over social media, revealing pictures that people haven't consented to. The law's against it now, but boy, what kind of damage has it done? I'm sure suicides, severe depression, anxiety, social phobia, all those kinds of things happen. And we understand the cultural values. American culture, which often values independence and may lead to some individuals to seek solitude as a means of self-discovery and personal growth. But when is that a problem? When is it you walk into the room and that baby your son has on videos watching porn, smoking marijuana, and not working, and doesn't want to? And it's a transition. Me and my son are going through transition, so I'm starting to understand him, and he's starting to understand me, and we're starting to have communication for, I think, the first time. He's in his late 30s. Sometimes it takes a long time to get with folks and understand who they are. That's why I had to kind of understand adverse childhood trauma and what that meant for him and what it was for me and him as a family. Impact on mental health, of course. Mental health challenges, loneliness is strongly associated with negative mental health outcomes, including depression, anxiety, increased stress, and even physical problems like heart disease and a weakened immune system. Across all ages, loneliness can affect all ages, but is particularly prevalent among adolescents and older adults. Get that. Younger men and older men. Highest rate of suicide is in older white men. Again, racially, culturally appropriate discussion. Years ago, when I was having these discussions, I was considered to be racist. Now we understand that elderly white men have lost their partner, are no longer working, probably using alcohol, are more prone to commit suicide. They're more prone to be successful at it too, because of their access to guns. Back to guns. Solitude. Solitude is mental health benefits. Solitude has been chosen and enjoyed, can have a positive effect on mental health. It allows for self-reflection, creativity, stress reduction, stuff like meditation, relaxation techniques. For me, it's running. For someone else, it's knitting. For someone else, going to movies. Something that, you can lose yourself. That's the solitude of the movie theater, right? Dark, quiet, no one sees you, except for the popcorn, people screaming, and the guys in the back fooling around. Yeah. Anyway, risk of solitude, though. However, if solitude leads to social isolation, it can become and have similar effects to loneliness. Across ages, healthy solitude practice can benefit all ages, but the ability to enjoy solitude often depends on an individual's personality and life circumstances. We're at 30 minutes now. It's Believe Radio, 24-hour gospel radio, inspirational station, Bay Area Radio. I'm George Pearson. I'm a PA. I've been practicing about 30 plus years in primary care family practice. This is Education of the Best Medicine. As a collaborative with Eyes of the Conscious Soul, Barbara Howard. She'll be back next week doing what she does. She's bringing a lot of good youth programming, a lot of programming you kind of need to be aware of. She's a Black woman on the move, bless her heart, thank her. Across ages, healthy solitude practice can benefit all ages, but the ability to enjoy solitude often depends on individual personality, life, and life circumstances. That's interesting. That's a lot of it too, right? Depends on what's going on. Flavor of the month, what's happening, issues, concerns. It's not just the potpourri. Research findings. Increased social media has been linked to feelings of loneliness, even as it provides a platform for connection. Do you think about that? Because we lose the sense and sound of touch, of conversation, of interaction. I think the genie is out of the bottle, though, because a lot of people don't want to return to the office now. They are more highly functioning at home. They do more work. So if productivity is the issue, then why not? Well, control, male patriarchal dominant issue probably. I gotta see you coming in so I can pop my suspenders and tell you how great I am. But, okay. Older adults, loneliness is a significant issue, particularly among those living in low or in long-term care facility. Programs aimed at increasing social engagement can help mitigate these feelings. So here's the discussion that we have to have as we get older, as things change. This for me is all of a side. If a person does 96 things right, he does one or she does one thing wrong, we should throw them out. Can you not make a mistake? Do you have to be good at everything? Have you be on point all the time? No one is. No one is. We're more often on. We have more issues than not. We have more challenges than things go in your favor. Be respectful of that. And aging. That's why I keep saying I'm 69. We have to be respectful. Like I respect youth, respect age. And the ability to get there. As Richard Pryor would say, there's a lot of young, wise men that are dead. Older adults, loneliness, again, is a significant issue, particularly, that's why you got to talk, interact with family, keep it moving, keep interacting, keep saying hello, keep wishing birthdays, just don't, some people tend to fall off, oh, I ain't doing it because, it's okay. Be the bigger person, be the adult in the room. Have a little bit more love and compassion and empathy in your heart for the people that care about you. And if they don't care about you, care about them anyway. Believe that the path of God and Allah is sending you on is one you need to be on. And if it's one of service and humility and empathy, that's a good way to go. Men and women, Some studies suggest women may be likely to report feelings of loneliness, while men may experience differently and pitches matching through other behavior, alcohol, drugs, that kind of stuff. Cultural factors can influence the experience of loneliness and solitude. Minority groups may face additional stressors that contribute to feelings of isolation. Not uncommon. Both loneliness and solitude have significant implications for mental health. While loneliness is typically harmful and solitude can be beneficial when it is chosen in a valued state, addressing loneliness and promoting healthy solitude practices are important for improving overall well-being across different demographics. That's kind of way to go, right? And what that got me into is like body image and stigma and this whole thing around obesity. We're going to talk about this more in depth, but the FDA has 6 approved drugs for weight loss. So no matter what else is out there, no matter what you're hearing, seeing, vinegar water, apple cider vinegar, intermittent fasting, whatever. The FDA has 6 weight loss drugs: Zeneca, Osmega, it's called Orlistatin, and it's Ezema. It's a phenantramine and topamine, which is a kind of a stimulant drug, and another one for seizure. Contrave, which is naltrexone, bupropion. This combination of naltrexone is used for alcohol abuse, and also it helps with opiate addiction. And bupropion is a antidepressant. An anti-anxiety agent. And letinograd and Wegovy. These are the 6 drugs that have been FDA approved for weight loss. And the reason why I bring them up is because there's been a lot of issues in terms, and we'll see more of this in terms of side effects and adverse reactions. And as more people take these drugs, more of these adverse side effects are going to come out. And my discussion with people will be with, can you handle the adverse reactions or you want to lose weight? Or you want to do both. So again, it's like the genie's out the bottle now. And everything has adverse drug reactions and side effects that you might not like in that drug. Particularly if you, in this case, although weight loss, you are not a diabetic, you don't have insulin resistance, you don't have metabolic syndrome, you don't have, any of those kinds of things. But what I wanted to understand was the numbers, and the numbers are at a glance kind of striking. This is from the CDC, and it says obesity is a serious, common, and costly chronic disease. More than 2 in 5 U.S. adults are obese. 2 in 5. So when you walk down the street, just count 2. If out of every 5 people, pick out 2 of those folks are obese. You can see them. This is not an issue around shame. This is to understand the magnitude of the problem, because for me as a health provider, the implications of folks that are overweight or obese are medical in terms of heart disease, diabetes, mood, joint pain, thyroid, cancer, GI problems, stigma, behavioral issues. Again, it's a mammoth problem. And I guess for me also, I was thinking about this as I was getting ready for the show, that when I first started practicing, they had these obesity maps. And at one point, brown was the color that said everybody was obese. And over a 10-year period, every 10 years, that map increased to the fact that it's across the entire United States now. It's not a real area that doesn't have people that are 50% obese. Obesity affects some groups more than others, including non-Hispanic Black adults and adults with less education. Many adults with obesity have other chronic disease, including diabetes and heart disease. Of course, Also to include cancer. The additional impact on for a person being overweight or obese on their health outcome probably increases the cost of medicine. Literally adds another $15,000 onto it. If you include a hospitalization, you include, time off work, you include, all those things. Obesity is defined as having a body mass index, and some would get a greater than 30. I say 25 today, but greater than 30 you consider to be obese. Severe obesity is a BMI greater than 40. And here are some of the cost implications. In 2023, the cost of obesity in America is substantially significant, impacting both inpatient and outpatient healthcare expenses. It is estimated that obesity increased U.S. healthcare spending by approximately $170 billion annually, encompassing a wide range of medical services and conditions associated with obesity. This is from the Harvard School of Medicine Public Health. A significant portion of these costs are attributed to inpatient and outpatient care. The cost of treating obesity-related conditions accounts for a considerable share of medical spending across various healthcare systems. So, in other words, this is costing the system a heck of a lot of money. You can have obesity and you can associate hypertension with it, you can show diabetes with it, you can decide cancer with it, you can decide, decreased mobility with it, you can decide joint pain. It's just a myriad of issues, but as a foundation issue. In fact, when we look at how we can, 80% of chronic medical conditions can be addressed by a few things. Weight loss to acceptable body weight, healthy body weight, plant-based diet, no smoking, limited alcohol use, increased activity to 150 minutes a week. 4 things could solve 80% of the chronic healthcare conditions, or limit them or modify them so you don't have to take 8 medicines. You can take maybe 2. All this is coming down to a behavioral issue. Why I'm talking about this, because there's an issue around the foundations. What we need to make changes in behavioral health and how we think about these things. And are we maximizing our efforts to address these conditions to a point of care? If you don't want medicines, then take care. And for a considerable share of Medi-Cal spending across various health systems, including Medicare and Medicaid, and particularly driving the suppressing cost of prescription drugs and administrative expenses. And again, the whole spectrum, the most beneficial treatment for obesity is surgery. But what I've seen is people overeat the surgery. You send them for a gastric bypass to get the gastric bypass. They're great for the first 5 years after that because they haven't changed their eating behavior. They're not exercising. They're still eating the same high salt, high sugar, Western stick to your fat diet. And we understand that the fat cells now are so conditioned that they are used to the food that we're providing. We don't provide it, though you don't feel like you've eaten. This is how food has been kind of altered so that you crave it. Your fat cells crave it. And the economic burden of obesity extends beyond direct medical costs. It is the indirect costs such as lost productivity, increased disability, and treatment program. And that's from the health economists. Then some of the pathophysiology that the brain triggers eating results in complex interaction between brain regions, neurotransmitter, hormones, and genetic factors. All these play a role in obesity. So when I first started practicing, obesity was a personal issue. It was something about what you weren't doing as a human being, and you just, gluttony, right? And Dante's Inferno, gluttony is one of the sins. It's biblically spoke about in terms of gluttony, but again, a number of factors are involved in people that gain weight and can't lose weight. The hypothalamus is involved, the neurotransmitters and hormones, particularly hormones like leptin and leptin in obesity. Leptin resistance often developed, impairing the regulation mechanism that kind of shuts off your eating mechanism. It's a dysregulation of the brain to the body in our eating mechanism, and the neurohormonal factors that are involved in that. Not just the fact that you don't want, that you can't stop eating. Insulin plays a large role in that. Regulates glucose levels and influences appetite by acting on the hypothalamus. Insulin resistance is common in obesity, can disrupt this, and again, back to the risk of diabetes. Also, reward systems. We talked about this, the dopamine pathways involved in reward and pleasure aspect of eating. The dysregulation of dopamine signaling can lead to overeating and preference for high caloric foods. Again, the dysregulation of normal eating, metabolism, the hormones that regulate these processes are altered by the food we've consumed. Almost like being addicted, right? The orexin and the endocannabinoid systems, these systems contribute to the pleasure-related parts of eating, and the aspect of eating can be dry food, getting the munchies, right? Dry food intake and the independent energy needs. Genetic factors are involved in obesity. Mutations. This predispose individuals to obesity by affecting auto-regulation and metabolism and energy expenditures, because the body had to either support weight or gain more weight to deal with the winters. Women especially had to gain more weight to carry the fetus to term. Environmental and psychological factors, stress, can affect the hypothalamic, pituitary, and adrenal axis, which is the brain, the pituitary, and adrenal glands, leading to increased cortisol levels, which may promote appetite and fat storage. Again, I have to store fat because the winter's coming. So what if you don't have to store fat anymore? You're just eating as though you needed to throughout the year. You're going to gain weight. Food environment. Easy access to high caloric, palatable foods can overwhelm homeostatic control mechanism, leading to overeating again. Fast food. Poor quality food. Misconceptions about obesity. We know it's hormonal. We know it's genetic. We know it's environmental. I want to thank the Facebook family for checking me out. Appreciate you guys. And we're going to get better at this. We're going to start doing Zoom calls. And we're going to move forward with this now. A lot of things are going to be happening. A lot of expansion in the media platform and my website. So look forward to this exciting time. Misconceptions about obesity. Why are we talking about this? Because from a cultural, psychological, and environmental interview, we are more impacted due to structural and institutional racism, due to food islands where you can't find fresh fruits in the neighborhood that you're in, due to the preponderance of alcohol and fast food and fast chains that just provide processed food, high sugar content food, alcohol. Lifestyle changes. So misconception about treatment of obesity. And I thought that was really important because, again, we tend to want to blame. We're a blaming society, and we continue to blame. When people are right, we blame. When people are wrong, we blame. We just want to blame. We just want someone to be at fault. So misconceptions about treatment of obesity. Lifestyle changes alone are sufficient. Misconception. Many believe that diet and exercise alone are enough to treat obesity. While lifestyle changes are critical, obesity is a complex disease often requires a combination of lifestyle modification, medication, and sometimes surgery. So quit saying you're fat because you're fat, because that's not true. Now, are you contributing to the lifestyle? Yes, you are. But some of it's genetics. Now, you can't blame genetics. Can't not understand that then not change behavior. Part of it's behavior. I always say it's behavior change. Medicines are ineffective or dangerous. And I'm doing this show because I want to open up that piece to myself as a provider, other providers, that we have to start looking at these medicines in a new light and helping start contributing to the answer as opposed to contributing to the problem. And understand these medicines may be lifelong also. Misconception, there's a belief that weight loss medications are either ineffective or come with unacceptable risks. Modern FDA-approved medicines have undergone rigorous testing for safety and efficacy. When used properly, they can be an essential part of an obesity treatment plan. Now, let's reemphasize that an essential part of an obesity treatment plan. Misconception. Obesity is simply a matter of willpower. Obesity is often seen as a result of lack of willpower or discipline. Reality, obesity is a multifactorial disease influenced by genetic, environment, and psychological factors. Roles of social determinants and clinical inertia as a clinician. Access to healthcare. African American women have less access to healthcare services, including specialists in obesity management, due to socioeconomic disparities. Environmental factors. Living in neighborhoods with limited access to healthy foods and safe places for physical activity can contribute to higher obesity rates. Cultural norms and beliefs. Cultural attitudes toward body, weight, and health can influence perceptions of obesity and willingness to seek treatment. And this is really important, I think, for African American women to have seen a preponderance in their body type. I've been saying this a long time. Their body types are now the desired types. The Coke bottle body, the heavy top, heavy bottom, in vogue. Many of women, not women of color, are spending gazillions of dollars so they can look like women of color. Women of color look naturally. And the videos about clapping butts, and that doesn't help any. But again, another issue for women of color, because some stigma is attached. And women that I was saying this for years that normally weren't being attracted to or weren't being catcalled are now experiencing that, and it's really intimidating for some of them. Some of them enjoy it, so a lot of them don't. But again, it's the change in body type. And a number of white men are now attracting women of color and taking on that body type. Ask Serena Williams. So, and we'll talk about what to do in the next couple minutes too. Clinical inertia. That's when providers don't think about, is this a problem and should I treat it, and should I treat it with the best medical? No, they give it off to other issues. Clinical inertia, delayed diagnosis and treatment. Healthcare providers may delay diagnosis and treatment of obesity, especially in African American women, due to implicit bias or a lack of awareness about the severity of the condition. Reluctant to prescribe medicines, there may be hesitancy to prescribe DNA-approved weight loss medicines due to misconceptions about their safety, particularly for minority populations. And insufficient patient education. Patients may not receive adequate information about the available treatment options, including the benefits of risk of medication and service. So the risks and benefits need to be explained. We need to have a better understanding of these to begin with. And specific challenges for African American women: higher prevalence of obesity. African American women have higher rates of obesity compared to other demographic groups, yet they are less likely to receive appropriate treatment. Again, gets back to this, the desired body style now. It's although it may not be healthy per se, the men of their world don't want them to change. In fact, challenge them about it. And let's see that particularly in Hispanic women also. Bias in healthcare. Implicit bias among health providers can lead to undertreatment for inappropriate treatment recognition for African American women. Socioeconomic challenges can limit access to healthy care, healthy food options, and opportunities for physical activity. Mistrust in the healthcare system. Historical injustices and ongoing discrimination can result in a medical profession and reluctance to seek treatment. Addressing the issues of education and awareness, cultural competency training, and policy changes and community-based interventions. Obesity is serious and expensive. Many adults have serious chronic conditions. For example, 58% of U.S. adults with obesity have high blood pressure and risk factors for heart disease. Approximately 23% of U.S. adults with obesity have diabetes. This is not a laughing matter. It's something we need to address. Healthcare for obesity is expensive for patients in the healthcare system. In 2019, annual medical costs for adults with obesity was $1,861 higher per person with than adults with healthy weight. For adults with severe obesity, the excess costs were $3,970 per person. This accounts for $173 billion of extra medical expenditures. Got about 4 minutes left here. I want to thank you guys for listening in. And so, what are the behaviors we need to change? Health behaviors that can contribute to excess weight gain and a risk of obesity. Try and simple physical activity. Unhealthy eating patterns such as eating too many processed foods, added sugars, sugar-sweetened beverages, too little fiber, fruits and vegetables. Not enough sleep or poor quality sleep. Too much TV, computer, video games, getting out in the fresh air, trying to walk. That's what you got to be doing. Keep reading. Long-term stress can affect your brain and trigger your body to make high levels of hormones such as cortisol, that gaining weight. And it makes you crave for all that good, sweet, sugary stuff. And some medicines can cause a weight gain. You review your cabinet. Psychiatric medicines. I remember olanzapine in particular was one of them. Steroids, types of hormone, birth control, anti-seizure medicines. All these things can cause weight. Some examples we can do to help is healthy, affordable foods, places for physical activity, community design, support-friendly, childcare and social environments, access to high-quality healthcare services, safe housing. Look up this thing called the food plate, vis-a-vis CDC. And it has a really good proportional discussion about what your plate size should be and portions for plate control. I think it was interesting that it looked to me, it was emphasizing more grains and less meat. One thing about is our children. Approximately 1 in 5 children in adults are obese. Obesity affects some groups more than others. Again, Hispanic, non-Hispanic, Black children. Healthcare for obesity is expensive for patients in the healthcare system. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate all you guys for watching and listening. And we're going to continue this obesity conversation. Again, the risk issues in terms of heart disease, hypertension, heart disease, coronary artery disease, diabetes, gallbladder disease, reflux disease, liver disease, non-fatty liver disease, infertility, PCOS, depression, anxiety, all these things that contribute when a person is overweight or obese. Social isolation, definitely. And we can manage this with lifestyle modifications, medication, surgery, psychological support. I want to thank you for watching the show. I want to appreciate all the time and effort you folks been with me, spend time with me. Hey, I prepare for these shows. I try not to be lackadaisical on that. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see Miss Howard next week. And thanks for listening.